If you're like many of us, the holiday season might have left you with a bit of extra debt, but the Sharp Mortgage team is here to help. I recently discovered the incredible work they're doing to help folks consolidate their holiday debt through smart refinancing. They're turning financial stress into financial freedom. Managing debt can be overwhelming, but the Sharp Mortgage team makes the process a breeze. Their experienced team understands the ins and outs of the mortgage world and is dedicated to finding solutions that work for you. Imagine having one manageable monthly payment instead of juggling multiple bills. The Sharp Mortgage team can make that a reality. Plus, they're not just about numbers. They genuinely care about your financial well-being. So if you're ready to kick that holiday debt to the curb and start the new year on a financially strong note, reach out to the Sharp Mortgage team today. Visit their website, sharpmortgageteam.com. That's sharp with an E at the end, sharpmortgageteam.com, or give them a call. Don't miss this chance to take control of your finances in 2024.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, it's our real estate update here for 2024, our first one of 2024 with our guy Blake Ginther. Blake is on the road today. Blake, where are you coming from today? What takes you out of the Triad and on business today?
I am down in Charlotte getting learned all about the financials of real estate. It's super exciting, everybody.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry that we're going to deprive our listeners of just recapping everything that you've learned, segment by segment, agenda item by agenda item. That would be, I don't think it's too hot to handle. It would just attract too many. It would attract too many listeners, and it would break the podcast feed because too many people would download the episode. But people come here because they appreciate your real estate expertise. And when we recorded at the beginning of December, we kind of made some projections about where things were heading when 2024 began. And what are you seeing now that we're into January? It hasn't even been half the month yet, but are you seeing some signs of some of the things that you thought might happen when we turn the calendar over?
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, man, I think it started the last week, 7-10 days of December. It started to pick up, and it does indeed look like it's going to be a warmer, although not temperature wise, spring, earlier spring. And I think most real estate agents in our local area have been busier. We see our activities on our listings. A lot of our listings are going under contract quicker than they had been in the fall. So, you can take that several different ways, but ultimately, I mean, it's basically what we talked about in early December. And, that started to change in November, but it really, when the Fed came out and said they were going to drop rates in the new year, and then ultimately the interest rates prior to Fed even dropping them went down from 7.5 to just under 7. And now they're currently in the mid sixes. So, there's people guessing that they're going to be in the 5s. I don't know if I really believe that, but I think bottom line is locally, the needle moved, as in it slowed our market when we got into the mid 7s. It really didn't move the needle much until we got well into the 7s. And now that we're back in the 6s, interest rates just aren't a reason why people aren't going to purchase right now. Then that's not to say that there might be people who are choosing to take themselves out of the equation because of their low interest rate, and they just don't have that big of a need. But if you're renting or, if you're going to move, it's not going to make you not purchase, right? A 6.5% interest rate is not going to make you not purchase. A 7.5 was really hurting people in our market, 325,000, which happens to be the average price, and below, right? That was really putting a financial pain on those buyers.
Yeah. So the advice that you gave people in December was, if you're ready or you're in a position to buy or even sell, act now before things really heat up. And as you start to see some of the activity and things heating up already here in early January, I would imagine the advice is the same, is look, the spring is always the hottest time. in real estate traditionally in terms of the calendar year. So take advantage of this next month or two. If you're in a position to do so, take advantage of this next month or two before the competition really ratchets up.
Yeah, and I think normally it's a month or two. I'm going to say honestly, it's probably a week or two. I feel like by the time that people hear this, it's. I mean, don't get me wrong. It will probably continue to. If you're a buyer, it will probably continue to get worse, feel worse. So I would say that if you are a buyer, you definitely want to go ahead and move up your timeline, especially if you're under 400, under 500, or if you're looking at new construction above that, those buyers definitely need to push their timeline to sooner if possible. Post St. Patrick's Day, we usually locally see more listings come on that are that are a little more right, that are the specifically bigger home sales. But for the most part, if you're under 400 and you're more locally, more centrist and more smaller home sales, they're really exploding right now. And it's January, it's early, it's not even middle of the month yet.
Yeah. So I have two things I want to ask you about that are both New Year / post holiday related. One is it a thing for people, or there to be a trend where after the holidays, people maybe get more of an itch to start looking at homes because maybe they hosted people at their house, friends, family, and they realize, okay, we don't really have enough space to do these types of things, or they've accumulated more stuff. In our case, I have 3 small kids. You have 2 kids. You accumulate more toys, right? And now all of a sudden, every holiday season, every year, you start to fill up that current home more and more. Do people get more of an itch in the new year about, maybe I should look around and see what's out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all of those factors that you mentioned are real, right? They're real. And I think that, I said it a lot during COVID, but I mean, I think boredom and availability of life is a factor in January for the local moves. I still feel that specifically in Winston, we're going to see January. It's funny, the corporation moves are typically middle or end of the year, right? They're either January or June typically. And so and for right now, with interest rates being where they are, we're seeing less local move ups, right? And I think that will still be the case this year, because again, if you have a 3% interest rate or better, that's, are you going to double your interest rate for the home? I mean, you have to have a serious need, and we're seeing it. I mean, we're definitely seeing people with serious needs that are like, once they see the math, they're like, oh, it's really not that big of a deal. But for a lot of people mentally, they're just like, nah, we're good. So to answer your point though, Adam, I think this time of year, it's locally, it's mostly the reloads, and most like that, just the January time, and then springtime with the hospitals, it brings a lot of new folks in. And but absolutely the local move up buyers, January's their life allows them to look. And I think you're right. I think that the holidays made them feel the discomfort.
Yeah. When you're off of work and you're at home and you're spending more time with your immediate family, maybe your extended family. And so, yeah, you're just being in the home more and more, like you said, like we did during COVID. As you're in your home more often, maybe you start to notice the warts or some of the things that you wish you could do differently. It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. we recommend you begin with a local financial advisor. And that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Cetera Advisor Networks are not affiliated. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Brings me to my next question, which is, if people have New Year's resolutions, and maybe this isn't necessarily a New Year's resolution, but you get this increased motivation, right, to accomplish things when you get to January. You say, I've been meaning to fix that or repair that or get someone to come and look at this in our home. What are the things that, if people are saying, I want to make some improvements here at the home, or I want to get some things taken care of that we've been neglecting during the fall and the holidays, what should be on the list of areas around the home that people should pay attention to if they're feeling so motivated to do so this time of year?
As far as like we're talking honey-do lists, we're talking in case they want to. I think the most common one. Well, first of all, I've always said light fixtures, right? They make a big bang for your buck, and you can do them easily over time. So, if there's an old nasty ceiling fan, now would be the time, right? If there's a dining room chandelier that you're like, why do we still have that, 1970s fabulous stuff? Now would be the time. Those are the types of things that, I also think candidly, it's usually cleaning out. It's usually closets. It's also, and I think that a lot of folks do this anyways. January is a good time. You just got some new clothes maybe, and you're looking at half of your closet that you haven't worn in years. Okay, now would be the time, right? I just said that to myself, by the way, because I'm definitely
sounds like something you need to take care of. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that's certainly a big part of it. I will say that kitchen countertops and backsplashes are often held till the last possible second. And they're highly recommended because every buyer, although they're easy for buyers to do, we're not in a concession. I think that's worth probably just a second to talk about. Concessions are absolutely possible. And people go, well, can't I just, give them an allowance for new carpet? And can't I just give them an allowance for new countertops and these are part of the things that we do in our renovation program on our dime, and they get reimbursed for. But a lot of folks are certainly financially capable of doing it. It's just a matter of they don't want to, or they have this concession mindset. Like, I'll just concede that at closing. And you can, but I think if the objective is to, and this is not always the case, but if your objective is to get the best possible price for your home, then you probably want to make between $5,000 and it used to be closer to $5,000, but now it's probably closer to $10,000 worth of cosmetic improvements that will bring typically $35,000 to $50,000 of additional monies, depending on the price point of your home. So I think to your question, when do you do those improvements? Do you do them all at once? Just rip the Band-Aid off? Do you start to, get ready in case you see rates get down into the, upper 5s or 6 rate, and you're like, okay, I can do this now. But you never know. What often happens is a phenomenal job comes along, and you can't pass it up, and now you need to move, and it's just a lot of work all at once. So I think your question is smart if people are listening to this to go, yeah, I haven't cleaned out my closet in a while. Yeah, that light fixture is hideous and I hate it, and I might as well put a new one up that I can enjoy, even if I am moving in a month or 2 or 3 or 4. Same with the countertops and the backsplash. So many people hate their countertops and backsplash, and they know it's not that much, and they know it's not that hard. It would be a day of inconvenience, tops, right? and it totally changes your kitchen. And they don't do it because it's normally not money. It's normally not the $2,000 or $3,000 that it costs to do. It's
Yeah.
the inconvenience. It's just, it's the chore.
Yeah. I don't want to be without my kitchen for a day or two, or, because we're not talking about a full kitchen renovation. You're talking about countertops and backsplash.
And they won't even be without their kitchen they'll be without their kitchen for like a couple hours.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
So those are all good pieces of advice. We've discussed that on previous episodes, where what types of improvements will give you the best return when you go to sell your home, because there are things that will and there are things that won't. I wanted to think of something I could ask you, and I think I found it, about we just had an awful rainstorm here in the Triad. Bad flooding, power outages, high winds. And, I know, you're not a home inspector and you're not a contractor, so I don't want to ask you necessarily anything about that. But I do want to ask you, because for whatever reason, the topic of home generators came up in a number of conversations I had with people. We don't have a fully installed generator. I just have one of those portable ones that you can pick up at the hardware store and use it when you need it, maybe the 1 or 2 times a year that your power might go out for an extended period of time. And I wonder if I don't think people buy these for these reasons, but these big Generac generators that just kick on as soon as your power goes out. I mean, we're talking several $1,000s to install. Does that have any kind of an impact on something that a buyer might notice and say, I'd be willing to pay for a little bit more or it might impact the sales price because something like that might exist on the home?
So I'm going to say something that I think if you're a listener and you're into solar panels, or you're into like generators, like a Generac generator, which, by the way, full disclosure, I'm interested in both. I don't have solar panels. Some of my friends do, and they're awesome, and they absolutely cut their savings. They save a ton on their electric bills, but HOAs, and they really need southern exposure and yada yada yada. But from in pure investment perspective, I'm going to give you guys bad news. They're very hard to monetize right now from a resale perspective. And I do have a Generac generator, and I told my wife when we did it, it's a good thing we're going to be here for a long time, because we will not get our money back on this. And that you just don't. They're awesome. And when the power goes out and they kick on, you're like, whoop, whoop, that being said, they are expensive, and the buyers go, oh, cool. But they don't go, that's X amount of money that I'm going to make, or I'm getting in this, unless they happen to have bought a generator and then they go, oh, honey, look, this is amazing. We just saved, $9,000, yada, yada.
Yeah. I was curious about that because I know why people install them, and it doesn't seem like adding to the resale value is on the list of reasons why you get one.
No, they're absolutely terrible investments, and that's as somebody who did it, I knew. I mean, they're like pools. Pools aren't good investments. They just aren't. Boats, pools, generators. I mean, I hate that I'm having to put solar panels in that for now. I do think that will change at some point in the near future. But for right this moment, you won't get it back.
Yeah. It's almost though anything that lives outside the walls of your home, probably not a good investment in terms of your resale value.
Yeah. Well, only thing I'll say to that is smart landscaping, right? Smart landscaping, patios and decks can absolutely gain some value there. But even like patio in particular, the cost of a patio or the cost of a deck, depending on, I don't even know if you'll get 100%. You probably won't get 100% of it back, right? Mm-hmm. Now, like $3,000 of really, really well done landscaping, I mean, curb appeal matters. So you probably will get that back. But much past that, nope.
Yeah. Light fixtures, good investment. Generators, not so good investment.
Not so much.
If
I mean, look, your neighborhood, Sherwood Forest in particular, if you live in Sherwood in Winston and we have a bad storm, high probability you're losing your power.
Yeah. The amount of generators that exist in that area of our city, a lot larger than other places. And so, yeah, I mean, we don't have one of those Generacs, but you better believe I've got a portable one in the shed that I'll have to plug our refrigerator into maybe once a year.
Yep.
So, well, good stuff, Blake. Well, if people don't take anything else away from this episode, take away some of the things that will or will not be good investments. Just understand what you're getting and not getting when you purchase these things or for your home. So, Blake, appreciate the time, my man. Where can the folks find you to discuss any and all of their real estate needs here locally?
Yeah, give us a shout at 336-283-8689, 283-8689. Find us on the interwebs at theginthergroup.com.
All right, my man. Well, good luck on the rest of your furthering of your education today, and maybe we'll give some of the info and really goose up the audience next month.
Oh yeah, they'll get fired up to hear about these financials for sure. I'll bring them back.
All right, my man. Be good.
You too, man.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.